So this session, we're going to be focusing on the venue market in Asia. We've got three panelists. Aloysius Orlando is the CEO of SingX Group in Singapore. He's been in that position since April 2010. The SingX Group provides integrated solutions for business events and venue management. Prior to this position, Aloysius was the Assistant Chief Executive of the Business Travel MICE Group at Singapore Tourism Board, with a focus on strategy there. Previous positions before that, Aloysius was the Executive Director of APEC Singapore Organizing Committee for the 2009 APEC meeting. And he's also currently the Chairman of Meeting Planners International Asia Pacific Council. We also have Dr. Hans-Georg Gedung, who is currently the GM of Scenic in Shanghai, and he's been in that position since 2006. Hans-Georg has extensive experience in China. He joined the Hoist Group with positions in China and in Germany. Previously also with BMW from 1994 to 2005, holding positions in China, Japan, and Germany. Hans-Georg, he speaks, as many of you know, he speaks impeccable Mandarin, but today, for my benefit, he will speak in English, so appreciate that accommodation. And we also have Monica Lee Mueller, who's Deputy Managing Director of Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center. She joined the CEC in Hong Kong in 1994 and has been Deputy MD since 2007. In addition, Monica actually has quite a few other titles. So she's also General Manager of the venue management company which operates Zhengzhou International Convention and Exhibition Center. She is Executive Director of Shenyang New World Expo Limited and UFI board member, and also Executive Committee member of the Association in Hong Kong, HASIA. So a warm welcome to our three panelists, please. The venue market in Asia has obviously gone through some pretty remarkable changes over the past decade, but even in the past 5 years, according to UFI research, the capacity has doubled in Asia since 2004, rising from 3 million square meters to over 6 million square meters today. So that obviously has a lot of benefits. We have a world-class infrastructure, really an unbeatable portfolio of venues compared to other regions in the world. But that creates some challenges, lack of qualified staff, perhaps oversupply in some markets. So we're going to try and touch on some of the challenges facing the venue market as well as the opportunities across Asia. And I think we've got a big piece of the market covered with our three panelists here and their experience. So I'll ask each of them first to introduce their venue and talk a little bit about what they see as their current strategy and their current challenges with the venue that they're operating. So maybe I'll start with Monica. You can talk a little bit about CEC in Hong Kong. Or no, not limited to Hong Kong, Zhengzhou as well.
I think Hong Kong is quite well known to most of the delegates today. We run a world-class venue in the middle of the city, the Hong Kong Convention Exhibition Center, with a rentable space of 91,500 square meters of space. Our calendar is quite full, owing to a lot of characters that Claire have mentioned this morning that we've been working the last 23 years, very much build up that portfolio and success story. The parent company, New World, have expanded into China since 2006. We have formed a joint venture with Shanghai Intex to a venue management company to manage Zhengzhou International Convention and Exhibition Center, where there's 70,000 square meters of rentable space for exhibition and conference. We're also constructing one in Shenyang, which is privately owned by a parent company and will be managed by us as well. So our vision and our commitment and in China is presented, I hope. And we really think that there's a lot of promising future in the industry in China. That's why we're there, and we'll continue to put more efforts and resources there.
Okay, thank you. Aloysius, you want to take a few minutes to introduce SingX?
Singex is actually a wholly owned subsidiary of Temasek Holdings, and we are responsible for managing the Singapore Expo. It's the facility that's nearest to Changi Airport. It is about 100,000 square meters in space, and in about 5 days' time, we will be opening our new convention wing, which we call Max Atria, with the latest in terms of Green Mark Platinum standards, and a whole new concept in terms of making the whole meeting platform pretty interactive, very technologically enabled, as well as bringing nature inside. And this, in a way, is reflective of the challenges which Mark alluded to in terms of what venues, as far as my part of the world, which is Southeast Asia, it's not that far from Hong Kong, of course, but I think in Asia in general, given the boom in terms of the venues that we see, certainly the near commoditization of venues is something which is uppermost in our minds, and I think it behooves venue managers like all of us here to see what would be the next big thing that we need to focus on, whether it is in third-tier cities, emerging cities, or even more advanced cities like Singapore. And I think that's something which presents both an opportunity as well as challenging times. But I think we'll be more than happy to share what our thoughts are subsequently.
Okay.
Yes, our venue, the name is Shanghai New International Expo Center, has now 200,000 square meters rentable area, and indoor area 200,000 square meters, and outdoor 130,000. So size-wise, we are now in Asia, we are now number 2. We have a very high occupation rate. We are now talking about 70%, around 70%. So in this respect, I think we are also, let's say, top of the world. We are now talking also, we have another index number, which means it is a so-called turnover rate. This turnover rate in our venue is now 32. That means we could rent out our whole area 32 times in a year. So, as you see, we are quite successful. Of course, we are more or less already got used to our success. So, let's say we now see, of course, that we are very busy, and it's sometimes, let's say, for us a really big challenge to cope with all those, with all this success. We are a joint venture, 50-50. On the Chinese side, we have the government-owned Ludia Zoe Group. On the German side, the other side, 50% is German. We have the 3 German exhibition companies of Hanover, of Munich, and of Düsseldorf. We are, let's say, for the time being, let's say, in a very comfortable position in Shanghai, but this will not last forever. As you all know, a new exhibition center in Shanghai will open in some years' time. So that means, of course, we will also have to cope with this new challenge. And for us, it means that we have to show that we are different, that we really have a, let's say, a brand which has a good reputation, and we will, let's say, prove in the future that it is, let's say, worthwhile to use our venue and to prefer our venue compared with others, because we are offering a higher quality.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point you bring up with new venue coming in, new competition. You talk about trying to create a brand for your venue, which is a challenge in itself. What elements do you think would go into that brand strategy? I mean, you'd focus on superior quality, service of operations. What else could you provide that can compete with new venues coming into your immediate market?
Of course, again, what you just mentioned, of course, services. What kind of services can we offer? Right. What is the quality of the various services? And let's say there are some, let's say, some soft factors which should not be ignored. For example, how reliable is an exhibition center? When I say reliable, it means when you really give a promise to one of your organizers, one of your customers, then you really have to keep this promise. This is just an example of the so-called soft factors. Other things, of course, are really more or less also hardware related. What kind of equipment do you have? How modern is your equipment? Third is, of course, let's say the quality of your staff. How, again, that's a soft factor more or less. It's also reliability has also to do with this. And to have a staff which is really cooperating very closely, let's say long-term cooperation with your customers, I think is very important. And of course, you have to create a kind of atmosphere of trust between your venue and the customers. And I think this are just some examples what you have to do for this. The opposite would be if you have, at least you don't, for example, you don't have this trust, and if you have, let's say, a kind of a personal fluctuation in your staff, which creates a situation where nobody knows your customers. And so we will try, let's say, our utmost to keep our staff to be, let's say, a reliable partner where you always recognize the faces when you arrive there at the venue.
Very good, thanks. Monica, maybe you can talk a little bit also about the key challenges you face in Zhengzhou and how you're overcoming the positioning challenges of Zhengzhou.
As Dr. Guido was saying, there are always two flow, the hardware and the software. We didn't participate in the design of the building.
Right.
So when we took over the management of the building, it has been already been running for almost 9 months. We actually inherited the staff and also the building. So there are areas that we really have to some area we have to correct, some area we have to enhance, and all that in terms of the hardware. We actually have to redo the whole signages, for instance, that were actually not usable. Because a lot of time when a building is being designed, interesting enough, the designer might have different objective to build a significant or a wow, building, to build a trophy for the city, and sometimes have overlooked the functionality or the durability or whether it's maintainable. There are some beautiful building in China, in some city, actually it's marvelous looking, but it cannot be clean. Some halls are too high, cannot be warmed up, in wintertime, or cannot be cooled down in summertime, because the space is too vast, not only in Zhengzhou, but in other cities as well. So a lot of time, the expectation from the architecture and the operator could be a little bit different. So that could be the challenge, and there's some of the challenge that we face in Zhengzhou. And also the software is the same. In China, there's so lack of talent in this industry. Some of the people we have to move around to different area after we inherited the team, because they were not trained, for instance, in the area they are assigned to. They're hardworking people, but they just don't know how. We have to retrain a lot of people, we have to recruit a lot of people, but also rewardingly, we also managed to train some of the people in the last 5 years. With us today, there's one sales manager. I always said when I met her 6 years ago, she was a little girl. And today she's very grown up, very committed, very knowledgeable, and have brought a lot of business to the center, which I'm very glad about. So there's both sides of things. And again, it's the policy, the market. There's a lot of development in China, but I hope the development is more on quality than in size, really.
Okay, you said a lot there, and I want to return to quite a few of the points that you raised, but I'll just give Aloysius a chance first. I want to come back to something you said in your opening remarks. You talked about the commoditization of venues. Is that the key challenge that you see SingX facing? And so does that mean, do you see your growth strategy outside of exhibitions? Are you focusing on other MICE activities?
I think in the past presentations today and yesterday, they've showed events coming into Singapore, and some have gone out. It's also a reflection of the state of industries and the growth industries where, for example, the Singapore economy is strong in. Certainly a lot of emphasis is placed on China, but also there are emerging centers of growth in India, Southeast Asia, whether it's Indonesia or Vietnam. I think the challenge is where would be your niche areas and your areas of specialization. How then can venues best support organizers who then look at what would be the Queen Bee event that they want to stage, perhaps in Singapore for that for the regional marketplace. I think that's something which we will then have to look at. Are we just focusing on a pure venue play? Do we have to shift from a venue to a value play? What does value play means? Both Dr. Godon and Monica has alluded to that. It is about hardware, it is about the software. The new basics for venue management is way different than, say, 3 years ago. We were talking about technology, for example. And for us, we see technology is not just to adopt technology, putting in a Wi-Fi, but how do you assimilate technology into the venue such that you are able to support the event organizers best. For example, let's take the airline analogy. We know the Boeing 737 point to point, but you know the A380, it's huge, state of the art. So for technology, for what we are working on in SingX is to shift from a B737 technology to an A380. So one of my precious clients here is Steven, which is doing Food and Hotel Asia in 2 months' time. And I think when he uses the venue, especially on the conference side, we'll be able to look at the free Wi-Fi. It's not just free Wi-Fi, but the bandwidth, the capability for high-powered to enable virtual exhibitions to take place alongside video downloads, where currently bandwidth can be an issue. And with all mobile devices, for example, coming in, if everyone were to operate their multitude of mobile devices, you're going to get a major choke. So I think that's something which will become the new normal, if you will. So that's technology. There are many others we have to keep on the lookout for in order to work towards the value play concept. And it's not just providing venue and big venue and wonderful venue, but really functionality, practicality, and some of these basic tenets will be critical in the years ahead.
Can you talk a little bit more about the virtual event alongside the actual event, the way you see that developing and what your role is in facilitating that as a venue?
As a supporting partner, so from the venue perspective, we will have to look at what would be the needs that organizers looking at in terms of how they want to harness the virtual world. So if you want to do concurrent exhibitions in the virtual domain, or for example, you want to reach out to delegates who could not participate, say, in conferences and like here, are you able to do real-time simulcast? The technology support has to be there and not to have frequent glitches in terms of the smooth delivery as well as in terms of the bandwidth. So I think those are key issues that we would probably have to work with the event organizers in order to ascertain what their specific needs are. But in order to do that, you must have a base level of IT infrastructure to do that. So what is this base level? So my point is that base level has risen, especially in terms of making points of differentiation in different venues. So that's something which, for all of us actually here, we are trying to push the boundaries to see how can we do that. But it has to be practical. So it's not a case of like what you have wonderful buildings, you don't want to have wonderful infrastructure. It will cost a lot.
Right.
So it has to be calibrated with whether it makes business sense at the end of the day.
Right, so the technology component would go into the brand element, building the positioning of the venue that Hans-George was discussing. Okay. Monica, maybe do you want to talk a little bit about the role you see technology playing in Hong Kong, particularly at CEC? Any initiatives that you have in place to implement new technologies, or new technologies you're excited about longer term?
I'm actually technically challenged, so I'm not the right person to talk about. But running a world-class facilities, as you said, we always have to keep up. The trouble with technology is there's so many new products coming up.
Yeah.
You actually don't know what to invest.
Right.
You know?
Well, that's the real challenge, because you don't know. You don't want to put your money in the wrong one, or one where people are excited about, and then 6 months later it's irrelevant.
Yeah, and the good thing is we're in the exhibition business, and then we're always the first one who see all the prototype, or the new idea, or the new product at our exhibition. So I often go to all these, Infocom, for instance, the exhibition. I go to electronic fair to source things and all that. So to keep myself up to date, and of course my technical team is there to keep ourselves up to date. I mean, it's important that you get your major stakeholder, your customer, involved with this kind of purchase or investment, and that because you don't want to spend millions of dollars there and this is not what they want, right? So that's what I would say. We have recently upgraded our Wi-Fi system. We have done the last upgrade 2 years ago, and we found out that the bandwidth is not good enough, the speed is not good enough, and then the firewall is not good enough, and I actually I didn't know until 2 years ago that actually other organizers database doing exhibition. Very naughty. So we have upgraded our firewall to protect our customer. For instance, this is very important. And so again, this is multi-million dollars investment every 2-3 years. Again, we have to get our stakeholder involved in it.
Okay, thanks. Hans-George, do you want to comment on technology at all?
Well, I think, of course, when it comes to technology, I think what we have to do, I think not only just we, but I think all venues, we have to look really into the future, what is coming up, and how we can, let's say, adapt to this future. I think the best, of course, you can do as a venue owner, of course, if you're also an organizer of the show itself, that you really try to surprise your customers with what you can offer. So. You have to be, let's say, more or less to look into the future, what is coming up, and then try to implement as soon as possible. Of course, if the technology is mature enough. So surprising the customer with something which is they did not expect would be, let's say, the best thing what you can do to impress somebody.
Could I?
You can.
Just a quick technology, okay? If anybody here know a very good, accurate, and easy to operate attendance counting system, please let me know. Okay, accurate, okay?
So technology obviously is a hardware issue, but all of you at one point raised hardware versus software. I think when you look at the expansion in capacity that we've had in Asia over the past 5 years, now 6 million square meters, many new venues, particularly open now in China, staffing has to be at the top of your list in terms of challenges. Hard to retain staff, hard to find qualified and experienced staff when you have that many venues now open, all competing to hire good quality staff. So maybe each of you, I'd appreciate if you could talk a little bit about your challenges with staffing, but then also what you're doing to address the training issue, which you must be facing on a daily basis. Ladies first.
Sorry. Okay, very quick one. Recruiting staff is not easy, particularly when you're operating in the second tiers or tertiary market, because there's a lot of development in the first tiers market in Shanghai, in Beijing, in Shenzhen. So it's quite hard to lure talents away from those first tier cities. So we have to grow the people where we can find them. Unfortunately, in China, there's not many training that we can send them to. So again, the in-house training is important. In Hong Kong, we send our staff to industry association, may it be UFI, IAAM, APAC, for respective training. But a lot of staff in China, they don't speak English, so we can't even send them to those training. So in the future, I do hope organizations like UFI can do more of the training in China, tailor-made for the Chinese audience in different levels, whether it's in marketing, in operation, in green, and management. And it's all needed. So I'm hoping for. Once you get some staff that you think that have the right attitude, they can learn, they can groom, don't let them go. Okay, that's what I was saying.
So if training is an issue, particularly in China, where you can't find content or courses, in a place like Zhengzhou, are you looking to work with local educational institutions, tertiary institutions, to try and get the training implemented? Maybe they have tourism schools, but they don't focus on exhibitions?
Yeah, we were talking to the university there as well, but it's a long shot. Yeah, we're trying to work with the university. At the moment, we also send our department head and division head to Hong Kong for cross-training, so they can look at how Hong Kong run our business and all that. We also send our senior staff there to do the in-house training as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Aloysius, after in Singapore with the opening of the integrated resorts, I mean, there's got to be a huge strain on staff in general.
Severe strain, yeah. So my industry colleagues are here, Marina Bay Sands, Suntec, and what has happened over the past 6 months is there's also been I hope there's no Singapore government officials here. Oh yes, there is. Let me choose my words wisely.
It's a delicate
there
dance.
has been, I would say, a clampdown in terms of foreign manpower that could come in. And rightly so is because there is a need to encourage more Singaporeans to take up jobs. But because of the state of the economy, it's pretty strong, and all sectors there is a general uplift in terms of business. There is a severe stress on manpower, which means that whether it's venues or even in organizers, the challenge is how do you find the right people and put up strong case in order to bring people from overseas in order to helm critical positions. I think that's something we will have to contend with. It's a new normal for us in Singapore. It is a full employment situation in Singapore, so that even compounds the problem. Right. So while China has many, the workforce are numerous, what I guess is important for us, and also what Monica has alluded, is that we need to keep focusing on hiring right and making sure that our talent retention strategies and management strategies are pretty robust and I guess relevant for the marketplace. So I think this is something which we have to contend with, which means that we are forced to look at other productivity measures, if I can put it that way. So using technology, looking at multitasking, looking at continually educating and training the workforce is very critical in order to ensure that we provide that same level of quality service, and at the same time make sure we don't have major workforce gaps in our business.
So for the training, do you do that in-house or do you work with institutions in Singapore?
It's both. It's certainly on-the-job training and also classroom training. And we are fortunate that we have a dedicated agency called the Workforce Development Agency in Singapore. And there's a national framework called the Continuing Education and Training Framework, where they disperse competency-based qualifications, which is called Workforce Skills Qualification, or WSQ. For the MICE industry in Singapore, there are different modules where various levels of staff can go and attain this and acquire this competency-based certificates. And that's good because on one hand, you get trained staff, but also if they were to go to competitors or any others, they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can just build from that base level.
Right. And I think in Singapore, the full employment situation is such that not just venues or in MICE, but more and more industries are hiring foreign workers, right, from Malaysia, from Singapore, even from China the last time I was there.
Yes.
Does that provide some unique challenges, or are you using more foreign workers?
If we can get those foreign workers as well, because of China, and it's boomtown Charlie, if I can say that in Asia. So that is something that we will have to grapple with. So how then do you provide the best value proposition? Singapore has now edged Hong Kong to become one of the costliest cities in Asia. So I think that's something we will also have to look at in terms of business cost, and also getting to remain focused as to where we ought to get our workforce from, what sort of levels they have to be to take on, so that you don't, in a way, have unnecessary spikes in your business cost.
Now, don't forget, Macau also have attracted a lot of workers in the region, and they continue developing. So that also draw a lot of manpower over there as well.
So you see manpower being pulled out of trained, experienced staff being pulled out of Hong Kong to Macau. Macau, the Venetian's been open since 2007,
it's
August.
More than Venetian, there are more establishments continue to open the door with convention facilities.
So you still see that as a trend, where staff leaving Hong Kong to go to Macau?
Well, there's on the management level, some of them already travel through Macau and come back to Hong Kong. But there are also new ones going to Macau, and there are also different level of the rank and file or the operation staff from China, Malaysia, and Singapore as well.
And when I talk to people in Macau, they talk about losing people to venues in China.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Well, I don't know what's the situation in Shanghai.
Yeah, Hans-George, maybe you want to talk a little bit about staffing issues and training for in Shanghai.
Well, of course, I must say, because our company, fortunately for the time being, is in a quite comfortable position, because we don't have so much fluctuation. We are doing a lot of training. We also have some quite good training agencies doing it for us, also foreign companies doing this. We have also some modules which we are using for different ranks of our staff. So in this respect, I would say we are really doing quite a lot, and I think it's really worthwhile, and it's really working. Other thing is, of course, the salary that we should not forget, and of course the whole, let's say, the working atmosphere. I think, well, this is a little bit about our company. Of course, the observations I make shows very clearly that they're not only Shanghai, but China is still, the service sector is still suffering a lot from the staff problem. And this is really a pity, because I see this situation hasn't yet improved very much in the recent, I would say, in the recent 20 years. We have still a lot of problems with foreign languages. That's also, let's say, for us a problem, because just recently want to hire a receptionist. And we tried to get somebody with a really good English ability, and it was almost impossible, because who speaks fluent English? Well, he is looking for a better job, not for a receptionist job. So, so you get the impression that if somebody is already has a good foreign language ability, then he is really, well, more or less, let's say he'd become a manager of a foreign import-export company or something like this, but not a receptionist. So, in fact, this is just one example. Of course, you have also some other abilities, some other skills, which are, let's say, lacking widely. And, well, as I said, the rate of improvement in the recent 20 years is not very high. Well, then when you look for staff, normally then you at first look for young people, of course, with a lower salary, with less experience. In the top management, of course, you have some, let's say, some mature persons, but it's lacking in the middle. Let's say in the middle rankings, and especially in also people at middle ages. You really don't get somebody at let's say at the age of 40 around who is really able to do the job we are looking for. So this is also counts not only for the exhibition industry, but also for the hotel industry. I think the hotel industry is a very good example where this really is a very, very big problem, and I'm in steady contact, let's say, with some of the hotel managers around us, and they're really suffering from this. So, as I said, we at SNIEC, we are fortunately in a quite good position. Our young people we hired 10 years ago are now, let's say, somewhat more mature. So we are successively, let's say, filling up the middle ranks now in our company. And so I think we are quite well staffed, but we don't see this in other places in the service industry. This is really still a big problem in China. And well, maybe it will improve in the coming 10 years or so, but still a lot has to be done. And I think also one other problem when it comes to staff problems, it comes to fluctuation, is also the atmosphere, is it the working atmosphere in companies. What I see that in very many companies, the style of the management is very, let's say, very conservative. Conservative in which respect? Mainly that they are really very much top down, that there is, let's say, very, let's say, few opportunity for the middle-ranking or low-ranking staff really to bring in their own opinion and really to discuss with the management about certain things. So more or less they are just following orders, and this top-down management style creates a lot of frustration. So this frustration again results in fluctuation. So, and when we interview somebody who's coming from another company, we very often hear this reason, not so much the salary, but it's just the atmosphere in the company, the management style, which they really discussed. So I think it's, there are various reasons for this staff problem in China, and of course there have to be various approaches to really cope with this, to improve the situation, and it still will take a long time. In our case, coming back to SNIEC again, as I said, we fortunately are now in a quite comfortable situation. Our staff is quite stable. Of course, we also have some fluctuation. It's quite stable, and as I said, we are doing a lot in training. Doing also a lot to let's say, to improve the working atmosphere in our company. And then again, well, what we have seen in the recent years, we are, let's say, more or less becoming also a kind of a small academy, because we very often receive requests from our colleagues from other exhibition centers or exhibition companies, whether they can bring their people into our company for a kind of short-term training or things like this, which we sometimes do if it's, let's say, if it's appropriate, if the time is not too long, people not too many, that we really can put them into, let's say, in our working process. So more or less, SNIEC, we are now really developing a new skill that means, let's say, now offering training to other companies.
It also sounds like your strategy of having a more open corporate culture, not top-down, must be working, because you said you've held some staff for coming up on 10 years now, and they're moving up into the middle rank. So your turnover of staff must be lower than average.
Sorry,
right.
I
Sorry, go ahead.
Give you the answer on what are the solutions, giving you all the problems.
Sure.
For us in Singapore Expo, what we've done is also to engage the community more intensively. We've actually tied up a lot of partnerships and MOUs with the polytechnics and the universities. And so what we have evolved is becoming sort of a classroom laboratory for students who are taking up programs, whether it's a diploma in events or exhibitions management or whatever hospitality programs. So this is one way in which it can help us to manage staffing sort of requirements, especially when huge events come our way and we really need to reinforce. And that's one way how we managed it.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll pause here. We started a little bit late, so open up to see, are there any questions from the floor at this point? We've covered a lot of ground on staff training, venues in China.
Thank you. Very interesting to follow both of you, three of you. A question to Monica and Dr. Gedun. I'm always under this impression that in China, the venues are more going really for the hardware, putting beautiful halls, beautiful facilities, beautiful infrastructure. But I think from an organizer point of view, we would love to go more for the software. And I think we have discussed it in the beginning. I'm always under the impression that the venues save on that when it comes to catering facilities, when it comes to web, when it comes to other things. So I would be interested, how is the venue's investment cycle? How do you really make decisions that you want to improve your software, that you want to invest something into your technology? Because I think some of the big exhibition organizers would actually be happy to pay 20, 30, 50 cents more in order to enjoy better software. And maybe the second question, if both of you have competition or will get competition, how do you see the software factor as a competitive factor? Do you see it as very important, or do you really think price is the most important? Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I think beyond is the kind of organizer that we would love to have.
Because he's willing to pay more.
No. Because he appreciates quality. Unfortunately, a lot of organizers can't tell, the quality up in a 10 or down to 5 or even 2, they will accept it, because if they can pay 20% less, they can accept much less quality. That's what we need. I think how we stand different from many other venues in China is that we very much insist on the quality, insist on getting the right level of service. Unfortunately, we might not be able to deliver the level of service that we want 365 days, because sometimes the supply of the labor is also in question. I'm not kidding you. The harvest time, we lose all the cleaning people to harvest. This is never heard of in Hong Kong. So there are different challenges that we face. And how do you pay a reasonable market price? How do you get your supplied and in order to support your business cycle? Because you don't get big exhibition every day, not even in Hong Kong. We also use a lot of casual labor in Hong Kong, although our business schedule is so full. Hong Kong employ 930 full-time staff, but we still employ a lot of part-time and casual labor. But we have a stable pool and well-trained casual labor in Hong Kong, may it be in cleaning or security or catering. But this is not the situation in China. So again, engaging agency or university or tourism school to get consistent supply is a key, and to keep a good dialogue and training with them is key. And then also for catering, again, it's a lot of training. I'm actually very pleased to see what's happening in the last 2 days here in Shenzhen, and I actually find this is one of the best, among the best, if it's not the best, among the best well-kept center. It is 10 years old, and the catering is beautiful, it's clean, the service, the beautiful girls, the uniform and all that. It's just done so well, and that keeps us on our toes.
Right.
That really keeps us on the toes. But we can talk more. 20 cents more, right? Okay.
Aloysius, you want to address Bjorn's questions, or Hans George? Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Coming to let's say improvement of software. If you mean software, of course, now also human resources, things like this. Of course, we don't have so much revolution, more evolutions on this, and so I think well, of course, you may observe this because you have been, let's say, around our center for many years already, not only for CL. And we have a lot of, let's say, successive improvements in many respects. For example, when it comes to our security staff and cleaning staff and so on. This is always the same company already for years. And we are really developing them. That means we have although they are, of course, one of the big government-owned organizations, and of course people always say, well, government-owned organizations in China are very stubborn and very unflexible, but we have a very good cooperation with them, and we are telling them very clearly what's lacking, where they should improve, and they're really doing this. And over the years, it's very surprisingly to see how they really improved, in which respect they improved, and they are still improving. So this is, I think, one of the examples. Of course, if you have any criticism, of course, we are welcome you to we will listen to you, of course. But anyway, I think we, in this respect, this is just one example how we have this kind of evolution, as I said, and we'll continue to have this.
Okay, I feel like we just scratched the surface with this topic, but we're already over time, so we'll have to cut it short here. If you want to continue the discussion, I'm sure the three of you, you'll be here for the lunch, I hope. So, so big round of applause for our panelists. Thanks very much, Monica, Aloysius, Hans-Georg. Thank you.
So if I may just have a last word in terms of quality. Everything comes with a price. Not because I'm a venue management, because a lot of competition is going on, as you said, a lot of oversupply in venue, that actually creating some cutthroat situation in some secondary or tertiary market. And then organizers thought that they can take advantage of this cutthroat situation. But, you know, blood doesn't come out from rocks, you know. and you do have to pay to a reasonable level to get reasonable level of service. And you want to have superb service and quality, and please think about that.
Okay. Do I have to cut the mics here?
Can we continue for 1 hour?
Thank you very much.